Anyị na-eto Chineke onye kere ụwa. Anyị na-eto Chineke eke kere ụwa. Anyị na-eto Chineke onye kere ụwa. Anyị na-eto Chineke eke kere ụwa. Maka ihe ọma niile o mere anyị. Anyị ekele Chineke. Anyị ekele onye kere ụwa maka ihe o mere anyị. Anyị na-eto Chineke, anyị ekele Ọkatọnda, anyị ekele Olodumare maka ihe o mere anyị. Ọ nọ n'aka nri n'ihu anyị, n'azụ anyị, n'aka ekpe. Ọ nọ n'aka nri n'ihu anyị, n'azụ anyị, n'ihu anyị. Anyị ekele Chineke.
Ndewo. Good morning. Good morning to all of you. Thank you for joining us in this very informative Chiism Live. I'm Oke Dibia Dr. Uwa Onyioha Osimiri, and it is my honor to be your host again today. Today, what you're going to learn is about African spiritual rituals and rites. But before I go into all of that, I want to just, for those who know what the song is about, let me explain what it is saying. Blessings. I ekele Chineke for the blessings that we receive. And we thank you for breath. Ikume, ndo. And we thank for good health. Arisike. Isn't that what from Chineke? Peace, udo, protection, good family, hope, truth is yoku. Righteous path. Teach us how to walk in the righteous path. Teach us that when him and I won't matter. We are worthy. We're worthy of Chineke's protection. We're worthy to walk amongst the living. We're worthy for Chineke's patience and our patience in turn. We ask Chineke to be with us always. Chineke is to our right, in front of us, behind, above us, underneath. And the question is, have you given thanks for all of that, for that protection? When you walk with Chineke, Monachiso, you are protected beyond measure. But have you said thank you? We cannot walk through life just pretending we're walking through life by ourselves. There's a protection around us. And that protection is Chineke. So if you're getting the protection, you should say thank you. As a matter of fact, that's how you get more. When you open your arms, more. Open your palm. More blessings follow. More blessings flow. But you've got to show gratitude. And so we thank Chineke for all these wonderful things that we get every single day that we take for granted. Thank you, Chineke. Let me start by asking you to follow us on African Spirituality Chiism Live on YouTube, certainly Global Faith Ministries of Chiism on Facebook, and also Chiism Live on Facebook. Before I welcome my guests and also welcome my co-host, Dibia Ochuaja, Udee Onyioha, and our guest today, Chiedozie Okoro. You guys have had the opportunity to hear him, and he's been a welcome part of our program, and we're certainly grateful that he continues to come in. Today we are talking about African spiritual rituals and rites. A man asked me recently, why do we continue to follow ATR, African traditional religions? Why, when you consider the fact that people are becoming atheists, and some people who are fervent religionists are either Christian or Muslim, should African traditional religions become more modernized? I'm not sure exactly what that means. But what I want to say to this young person, remember, every religion is traditional. It comes from a particular place. Christianity is traditional. Islam is traditional. Buddhism, traditional. So why African traditional religions should be different, I don't understand. What we are doing is honoring and giving supplication to the Creator in the way we understand best, the way our ancestors did it. There's nothing unholy about that. And anybody who tells you there's something wrong with that, and you believe it, and you actually go out to make sure that African traditional spirituality is extinguished, that person is an oppressor. Anybody who tells you that your own thing is wrong is an oppressor, because every religion is traditional. There's nothing different about all the other religions and African spirituality, in the sense that it's all traditional. It's all based on what their ancestors taught them. And that's what they're teaching you, but you're abandoning your own. And you think ours is primitive. No, it's not. Culture is dynamic. There are certain aspects of culture that need to change, of course, but you don't throw the baby out with the dirty bathwater. You keep what's good, and then maybe you get rid of what's not good. But never abdicate. You never throw away your culture to suit somebody else. So African traditional religion must continue, because that's our heritage. Anybody who tells us to let it go, to abandon it, is oppressive. And we live in oppression. We don't believe in being oppressed. Chisholm believes in honoring our traditions and using what's good in it to do the world. There's no religion that's worth it if it doesn't teach you how to be a good citizen of the world. Your role in the world is to tell people that there's something wrong with them, then something is wrong with you. That's oppressive. You are an oppressor. Your spirituality must teach you how to be a good citizen of the world. Libations is very important to us in African tradition. Libations is important. And libations can be poured. It's a prayer. It's a form of prayer. Anybody can pray. But you have to be careful how you pray and what you say. Pouring libations is simply a way of confirming and reminding ourselves of the relationship with the Creator and the vast universe. That's all libations is. Connecting us. It gives us environmental tranquility and psychological focusing. That is what other churches do. When I pour libations, it gives me joy and it gives me peace. I am one with my Creator. I'm honoring my ancestors. Some people pour libations differently. There are different forms of pouring libations. Some people pour like wine with water, with oil. It all depends on the person who's pouring libations. So I just kind of want to instruct you, for those who don't know, why we pour libations and what it is to us, why it's important to us. And you can pour it, I don't care who you are. If you have an understanding that you are connected to your ancestors and you must give them art, not worship. I think that's a misconception that we worship ancestors. We don't. We honor our ancestors. And that's the dignified thing, because we will become ancestors. So some people pour libations even with food, with solids. I know people that in my village, when somebody's getting ready to pour libations, they may throw some food on the ground and say it's for the ancestors. Let them eat first. Whether the ancestors speak or not is irrelevant. It's the thought. It's what that represents. That's what they do. Some people use corn, flour. So again, it depends on who you are. Libations is a very serious process in African spirituality. You've got to be very careful, because you're inviting the whole universe. You're inviting the ancestors into the space. Now we say Monachiso, we walk with God. Yes, we walk with Chineke. However, when you make a conscious invitation to the spirit to come and be in the space with the ancestors, then you are calling upon energy, a big time energy, if I may use that expression. And when you pour that libation and you have people around you, you're sharing that energy, you're inviting the energies to be with them. You can actually bless them with this energy. But if we don't do it right, if we're not clean in our hearts, that's why there's something called osoji. Before a priest will pour libations, if it's a priest pouring libations, they eat it. So that they say, whatever I say that comes out of my mouth is honest. I'm an honest broker, so that that energy in the room understands it's an honest broker. That's calling that energy. That's why before you pour libations, you ask for elders to give you permission to pour libations. That's what makes it serious. That's when you realize this is serious business, when you have to get permission from the elders so that you don't harm anyone in the room. Because when you don't pour libations properly, when you invite energies around people, around yourself, it may lead to you not even being well. So the leader of the focused, because you can quite easily hurt somebody who leaves your space because of what you have invited in, inviting the spirit to come and be with you, to help you. But if you don't do it right, mind is not right, then you can actually, people may leave your space and don't feel good. So you must make sure that you elders to give you permission, and you ask Chineke to be, let Chineke know that all your intentions are positive. What you're asking for is positive, not just, but for people in your community, for your family. You want to do good for others. You want protection for others. So as I indicated, you ask the elders for permission. And so now when you pour libations, what's important for you to know is there are certain things that you have to have. Again, it all depends on you. For me, I use something like this. Okay, of sorts, and I use water. It doesn't have to look like what I have, but that's just me. That's what I use. And then I have chalk. It's very important. And before I start to pour libations, I use a little bit of it. And in this way, because I'm pouring libations, I'm welcoming the spirits around me. I'm welcoming, and I pass it around those who are around me. So I give it to all of you as we get ready to pour libations. When you pour libations, you have to have in mind what you're asking for. What is this libation for? What are you trying to achieve? You just don't pour libations to talk. So when you start to pour libations in the presence of all the powerful, all-knowing and all-present Chineke, or by whatever name you call, you pour libation and you say, Ise means, and so it is. Now, some people say Ashe. I say Ise. I'm Igbo, so I say Ise. Some people say Ashe. Some people, Asians say Ashe. And some people say Ashe. The Yorubas say Ashe. So you pour libations. First of all, you want to invite Creator, all the powerful, all-knowing, to your space so that your wishes will be granted. So you have that energy, that powerful energy. And so I say, you may say Ashe, Aju, or whatever it is that means, and so it is in your language. That's the first thing you do. Then the next thing you do is you pour libations in honor of all the celestial ancestors in all the different cultures that have different names. Some they are known as Orishas. The Yorubas call them Orishas. We call them the spirit of all the parts of nature. We call Arunsi. Some call it Neteru. Angels. call them angels. But you call upon those energies and you pour libations and you say, Ise, or Ashe, or Aju, or whatever you feel comfortable calling them, using. And then you say, in the presence of ancient ancestors, those that existed before our, Mafa. I don't know if you're familiar with the word Mafa. That's when the Holocaust started. That's the terminology that African Americans use for, when the people started getting taken out of Africa. That was a Holocaust for us. So before we had the Holocaust, we pour libations and remember all of those great people who existed before that, the ancient ancestors that existed before that. And you have a list of them. Make a list of them. In my case, I remember King Endubis of Ethiopia, Oba Oduduwa of the Oyo Kingdom, Osei Kofi Tuta of the Ashanti, Queen Namanzana of Ngoni, Queen Amina of Nigeria, Oba Ewere of Benin, Shaka Zulu of the Zulu Kingdom. I'm just giving you names. These are just ideas. You may have your own. When you call upon the ancestors, remember those that existed before slavery, because a lot of times we call up the ancestors of those who just existed during slavery. We had great ancestors before that. Our slavery. So you call those ancestors that existed before the Mafa, before slavery. And so libation and say Ise, Ashe, Aju, or whatever you're comfortable with. We pour libations in honor of those ancestors who researched and taught us. People like Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Oke Onyioha, Nelson Mandela, Rosa Parks, Julius Nyerere, John Truth. You know who those names are. Write them down so you're able to repeat them. These are people who taught us how to be who we are, to honor ourselves and not to be ashamed of who we are. You honor those. So you honor the first one are those who existed before slavery. Those greats, those kings, those queens, those people who gave us our history before slavery. And then those who taught us in spite of slavery how powerful we are as a people. Call their names. Then next group you call are those personal ancestors, our own personal ancestors. For me, it's Oke Onyioha. Mugo Waboso. No Ngozi Onyioha. Daddy Bo, may you call out your own personal ancestors. And these are, quite frankly, in our tradition, you are an ancestor after you reach the old age of 80. So think about names, write them down, know them. When you're at your altar and you're pouring libations, make sure you know who those people are so you can call their names. And then the last people you call are those that are on the journey, those who passed away as you reach the ripe age of 80. Remember, when you pour libations, it is different for everyone. It is different for every culture. There's no right or wrong way of pouring libation, as long as it is a connection with the Creator and you're honoring your ancestors. And as a matter of fact, while you do that, you're honoring yourself. You're honoring your presence in the now. Because once you honor those, you're honoring yourself, and tomorrow somebody will honor you by calling your name out. If you do the right thing by God's grace, you live to be old enough to become an ancestor. For me, those who are on their journey are Chukwuemeka Onyioha, Ozwe Onyioha, Ozwe Onwuka, Ozwe Onyioha, Kalu Onwuka, Luella Irving, Ojukwu Onyioha. And it goes on, and you call out those ancestors that you have. There is no mystery to pouring libations. This is instructive. I didn't pour it, from a perspective of actually holding a libation ceremony. I'm just teaching you how you pour libations, and it is to everyone. But the important thing is that connection. So for the young man who thinks that we should abandon African traditional religion, question to him rather, is what part should I get rid of? Honoring the ancestors, honoring God, honoring ourselves, honoring those on the way to still on their journey. Where do we get rid? What do we get rid of? So I just want to end right now by reminding you that it is actually something you have to do if you practice African spiritual tradition. You have to play a role in your own good by pouring libations, giving thanks to the Almighty, and honoring those who have gone before you. That is how we pour libations. Again, they're different. This is just instructive. There are different ways of doing it. Whatever way that you find comfortable, whatever words that you can add, you can go beyond what I just said. You can add as much as is relevant to you, as is important to you. That is your prayer. That is your connection, and it's perfectly okay. Anybody who tells you that is wrong is nothing but an oppressor. And so it is. Yagazie of Yagazie. And what I do is I take a little bit of the water and I just spread it around. So there's any negative energies around, I'm asking the water that I prayed with to get rid of them. And so it is. Thank you so very much for listening to me. And now I am going to invite Dibia Ochuaja, Udee, to join in the stream.
Ndewo Kao, Yagazie to everybody. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the Kolanut, which is an important spiritual ritual that we have in Igbo land. We have that in all over sub-Saharan African communities. And that's what we're going to concentrate on today. Now, normally in a gathering or when you go to visit somebody, breaking the Kolanut is a very important ritual amongst, of course, us Igbos, other Nigerian cultures, and, again, all over Africa. In Igbo spiritual culture, we believe, spiritually speaking, of course, that the first tree that was created by Chineke, God of many languages, Olodumare, Tamuna, Ubangiji, Yahweh, a God in English, all the names that we give the Creator. We believe that the first tree that was created by Chineke happens to be the Kolanut tree. Therefore, it's the fruit that the Kolanut tree bears, has special significance to us. Right now, I don't really have a lot of time to make an in-depth, exposition on the Kolanut, but let me simply say that the Kolanut serves a variety of purposes. Most importantly, on a spiritual level, we kind of believe that, when you visit somebody, right? When you visit somebody comes to your place, as a host, it is your spiritual duty to break kola with your guest, your visitor. If your host doesn't break Kolanut with you, then you cannot be certain that your life is safe with your host or among those people that you're visiting, people whose guests you are. Now, once Kolanut is broken with you, you can rest assured that if you care to stay with the people that you're visiting, your life is going to be safe among them. They will put their lives on the line and they will do whatever is necessary to keep you safe. That's the most important spiritual importance of Kolanut. Now, of course, Kolanut has all the variety of reasons, and I'm going to touch on those just a little bit. to kind of really let you understand that when we talk about the Kolanut and we're breaking the Kolanut, we're not talking about some fruit, you know, that has any magical powers or anything. It's actually used on, on a variety of things, right? For example, if you're studious, you're going to college and you want to stay awake and you need some caffeine, you chew a lot of Kolanut, you're going to stay awake. You don't have to take noodles or drink coffee and what have you. You could actually just chew a lot of Kolanut and you will stay awake and study and hopefully do good on the test. I wouldn't advise it. It's better to study for a period of time so that, you know, you're very fresh as opposed to staying up all night and doing that, you know, chewing Kolanut. Thirdly, Orthodox Muslims, right, actually grind Kolanut and mix it up like tea and drink it as a substitute for alcohol, because alcohol is forbidden in Islam, right? So I would like to also remind everyone that the main ingredient of Coca-Cola drink is actually the Kolanut. So even in the Western world, in the factories, in the soda world, Kolanut plays a significant role. Now, beyond all these uses for Kolanut, we break the Kolanut as a way of demonstrating that we as Africans are spiritual people in all things. It is also a way of affirming that among those waiting to be born, those that are already here on earth, and those that have joined the world of ancestors, those that have passed away, you know, those that are here, those that are, you know, waiting to be born, and those that have passed away, is like a part of an unbroken circle. In our spiritual culture, Ani, the earth, is the center of our existence. We all strive to get into this world or to return to this world. And for us, life is simply about coming and about going, right? Down the line, when the colonizers came to Africa, you know, they terrified us with the idea of hell, and which in our spiritual culture, we don't have that, right? Hell means nothing. For us, our center of existence is the earth, not the heaven, but rather the earth. That's our center of existence. And life is all about coming and going, getting born into this earth and returning back to this earth. Ani is very important to us. It's the center of our existence in Igbo culture. Okay, so I just wanted to touch up a little bit on what the Kolanut is, its significance to Igbo people. And now we're going to break Kola. Now, in Igbo culture, we say that there's a Kolanut, which means that the Kolanut does not understand English. Prior to colonization, prior to any influence from other spiritual cultures, we broke Kolanut in Igbo language. And to be able to transmit the right message and to be able to, in our spiritual psychology, guarantee that Chineke and the ancestors are listening, you know, to our prayer for protection and for being able to move through life with a level of successes. We feel the imperative of breaking Kola in Igbo language. So we say, Ndebai, Oja Biala. Anyị na-ekpe ebe ọjị asa pụsa ta ife gara wongo nzo ta ọ gbara ụzọ asaa ka mma mma bụrụ nkewa. Ebe beru ugo eberu nke si ibe ya ebela nkume gịnị nku gwa ya. Chineke ife anyị na-ekpe ekpere na-arịọ gị bụ ta imezuoro anyị, tinye anyị ọmụmụ, nye anyị ogologo ndụ, nye anyị arụ isi ike, nye anyị ife anyị ha-eji ụzụ ụmụ ife ọbụla metụrụ aka ta ọ gara ya ngo nso. Chineke biko buru nkuku anyị ebe ọbụla anyị tiri aka ta ife bụrụkwa ahụ mma mma anyị ma ọ bụghị onwe ife ha mere anyị gara anyị mma mma. Ndị ichie anyị chọrọ ife mee ta anyị mee ife anyị kwesịrị ime. So mgbe anyị ha amụhụ anyị esoro unu lelee ndị dịka nọ ndụ anya ka chi bụrụ ka ọ bụkwa afọ mma mma bụ ife anyị hara afọ ife anyị ka ekpere arịọ gị onye kere ụwa biko mere anyị mezuo anyị tọọkpa kpọtụkwa anyị tọọkpa kpọtụkwa anyị onye kere ụwa anyị na-ekele gị site ugbu a ruo mbili na-ebighị ebi ọfọ ya gazie ise ka m bịa waa ọjị. I'm going to break the Kolanut and I'm going to give some of this Kolanut, some parts of it. Anyoji, we'll give it to Chineke and give it to the ancestors. Ofo ya gazie ise ofo ya gazie ise ofo ya gazie ise che Igbo kwenuo Igbo mmamanuo ya gazie.
Oike.
Ka
ya ikpakpa ọla ọhị mee.
Ọla o mere.
Ka no.
Ka.
Ya ime bring in Chiedozie, who is going to. Good morning, Kawo. Okay, your turn. Share with our listeners.
All right. I say my side of the world is afternoon, in fact, evening. It's after 4, going to 5 p.m. There in the US, you are in the morning. So I say good evening to those watching over here, and I say good morning to those of you in the United States. Well, I am here to talk about divination and do a bit of it too. Divination, what we need majorly is, this is the chaplet. This is our own traditional chaplet. And this is what we use for divination. This is how it is designed. And you'll see that it is designed to accommodate duality. And if you look closely, you notice that this part of the right part of the chaplet, it has 4 strings or 3 strings down, or then 2 cowries, while this side of the left has just 1 cowrie. If you look at it, that means we read the throw. When I throw, I will have to read it from right to left. This reading from right to left represents sunrise to sunset. The sunrise represents activism, active, while the sunset represents the passive. When you say something is passive. Now, what is passive can be sublime and very, very dense. It does not, the passivity does not mean inactivity here, but rather we say that the world is governed by the forces that are active and some that are passive, so that when the active ones are busy in action, the passive ones calm them. And so you will see that in the home, the man is a symbol of aggression, while the woman is a symbol of calming the man. Like calming the man, making sure that things go well in the home. And so if you also look at the structure of the sun, for those of you who are scientists, discover that the sun has 2 main elements, leptons and quarks. I think leptons are active, quarks are passive. So while one of the leptons explode, the quarks calm them. So that's the kind of thing, duality you find in alpha divination. Now, this rope, if you look at the rope, it has 4 seeds apiece. 4 seeds apiece. These seeds, when we throw them, when they turn up their faces this way, we say they are open. And if they are open, represents one and it's fixed. If they turn their face this way, we say it's closed. If it's closed, we represent with two, we say it is flexible. So you begin to see again the duality of fixity and flexibility. This is how we determine what, how we read Alpha. It has a structure. Then we have some elements that we call determinants. Like you have this cowrie. I've just used 2. I'm going to use 2. We can have as many as 4, 6, but I just bring in 2 here. This is cowrie shell, of course, representing what we call ako. All right. And then this is a udara seed, cherry seed, representing fertility. Okay. And so we use them when we want to note further divinations. But before I proceed, what our ancestors have done with Afa for us Igbo, Ifa for the Yorubas, and Iha for the Bini people, and so on and so forth, is that they have looked at the universe and said 2 basic forces govern the universe: permanence and change. Those of us from Igbo, we call the permanent state of permanence Obi or Obi, and usually appear in pair. They always in pair. Obi Nabo. Yorubas will say Ejiobi. And then that's for permanence. For change, we'll call it Aku, Akunabo. Yorubas will say Oyekumeji. Then from these 2, we permutate further to derive others like Ogolinabo, Odinabo. The Ogolinabo is what Yorubas call Iworimeji. And Odinabo or Udinabo is what Yorubas also call Odimeji. Now, these have their interpretations. I don't, because if I want to do the whole hog, I would chop a lot of your time. So what we're just doing here is analysis and little illustration before I do the actual divination. So, and when we read, remember I told you, when we cast, we throw, we read from right to left, sunset to sunrise. And that will also show you how ancient writings are read from right to left, unlike modern writings that are read from left to right. So ancient writings, most of them are read from, that's hieroglyphics, monographs, and epitaphs. They are read from right to left, representing sunrise to sunset. And so when we read, you will discover that what we call Mfi, Afa or Ifi, Afa, for us, we will call it Mfi. Benin houses call it Ifi. The Yorubas call it Odu. That is to say, when you throw, that particular throw will bring out a particular Mfi Afa, which is a particular structure of reality that has appeared from the spirit, the realm of the spiritual to the realm of the physical. All right, because what we want to do, why do we divine? Why do we divine? Divination is to find out the hidden, what we do not know about. So we asked, remember, Oke Dibia Dr. started by pouring libation. Then Dibia Ochuaja went into Kolanut breaking. In doing all of this, we called on God the Almighty, the owner of the universe, the spirit force of the universe, the being and the non-being, eternal becoming, from which every other thing derived. In their hierarchies, we call them. They who are in the spirit world, who see it all, ubiquitous, let them tell us what those of us in the physical cannot see. Even though we have eyes, they are limited. We have ears, they are limited. So what we cannot see, they should reveal to us. That is why we divine. So with that now, I'm going to divine. That's the rope. And when I divine, the first thing is that I do, I hold this up and I call on the Almighty Spirit, Chioke, Chineke, Chukwu Okike Abịama. asị m gị n'ụbọchị taa mgbe eke nwa gị nwoke Chiedozie Okoro na-akpọ gị sị gị zam mmụọ niile anya na-akpọkụ kparara dị otu nso ha n'elu ruo n'ala si n'ala rụkwa ha n'elu akpọkọ mụ na asị m na zam ndị egede ndị mbụ ndị nọ na mmanwụ anyị kpọkọ n'ụbọchị taa asị m na zam si ihe dị na nzuzo unu bịa gosi anyị ya otu ọ dị n'eke na afọ n'orie na nkwọ ịbịa si apụta ihe I throw. Well, my throwing here reveals that I have, beautiful, beautiful. What appeared here, if I'm to use my extension and show you, because I carried a mobile one, if you look at it, this is Obinabo, Ejiobe, meaning things are good for us. Ezewai, thank you. Your prayers have been accepted. And the Kolanut, everything in sequence. So this is very good sign that everything being done today, everything is in order. Good. Everything is in their essence. All the elements are perfect. We cannot do any further asking. Once the first primordial structure appears, Obinabo, Ejiobe, things are okay. We don't need to do further asking. And that means everything we have done so far is being accepted, has been properly ordered. And with that, I say, Ndewono, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, how wonderful is that? Now I'm going to add you. Applause. Thank you. You know, this is why it is so important for our people to see we are sacred beings. Right. Africans, our traditional spirituality is as sacred as anyone else's. What we are doing is not trying to change anybody's mind. What we're doing is try to present who we are as African people so that we can see the sacredness that we have, the sacredness of our spirit, of our hearts, the energy that surround us. We call them up and they come. We don't have to give it away. We don't have to stop being. I said it last week. You've got to be before you can belong. It's time to draw our people back in so they can be. Research. Look at what you've shared. Look at what Dibia Ochuaja has shared. Look at what Dibia Okoro has shared. This is what sacredness is about. What I have shared about libation, that's our sacredness. Udee, do you want to add to what I've just said?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I think a lot of times when you present traditional spiritual practices, like you mentioned earlier in your sermon, religion is traditional. It is your culture and your environment that precipitates your system of worship and what rituals that you imbibe by, right? To, achieve a level of psychological focusing that is necessary to communicate between the living and the spiritual world. It's like a formula. And that formula requires a level of psychological focusing. So we develop rituals. That's what spiritual practices are. Spiritual practices are rituals, rules, and laws that guide behavior to allow you to be part of a community where you abide by certain rules that influences your neighbor positively so that we could all thrive in this environment. That's why you have spiritual practices. That's where religion comes in. That's where spirituality comes in. You mix it all, you put it all together. Every religion in this world in existence has rituals. And that's what I want our audience to understand, that when you talk about rituals, you're not talking about some magic that has to deal with some kind of demons and all that stuff. Islam has its rituals. Christianism has its rituals. They definitely have a level of communion, which we do when we break Kolanut with Chineke, the living, and the ancestors. So in Christian parlance, they drink the blood and eat the flesh. It's their communion with their spiritual leadership or their God or whatever you want to call it that makes them feel that they're in tune with the Creator, that they're in tune with divinity. Hinduism has its rituals. Taoism, Shintoism, Taoism, Zoroastrianism, Manichaeism. Over 400 different isms in this world. Each religion or spiritual institution or spirituality has its own rituals. So when you talk about divination, you talk about pouring libation, you talk about breaking the Kolanut, it is all part of this spiritual practice that we have to abide by to create the psychological focus necessary for this communication between the living and the spiritual realm. So we are doing nothing different from what everybody else is doing. As I mentioned earlier, just one quick point. The issue has never been whether the African believes in God or whether the European believes in God or the Asian believes in God or whatever. It has never been the issue. We all believe in something. If we believe that we are not responsible for life-sustaining forces, it's just common sense to believe that we all believe there's something greater than ourselves, and that something is the Almighty God. It is a process that creates the conflict, not from every school of thought, but from specific schools of thought that want to impugn your practice, elevate theirs above yours, and through colonization, slavery, and institutions that they built on your land that enforces their own spiritual and political point of view. You are left with no memory of your past, your history, or your culture. And this is what we're suffering from today. So it's very important that we actually stress the fact that rituals is a common practice amongst all world religions. So we're not doing anything different to anybody else.
And Dibia Ochuaja, it is coming back, Sankofa, coming back to your roots. If you want to find peace, you have to find who you are. And everything that we are, we can find in our culture. Yeah, we can borrow some things, but we cannot abandon what our ancestors gave us, you see. Now, Uwa Onyioha has asked this question of Chiedozie, Dibia Chiedozie. Does all this positive alpha apply to all those watching as well?
Well, I think I sent something on the chat. I said, of course, divination that was done today was all of us, both those watching, those participating, and even those who are not part of us. We prayed for everybody, because remember, when Ezewani prayed, you did not circumvent some everybody. And when the Kolanut was broken, nobody was surprised. So the divination is us, and for what we are doing, for those of us participating, and for the goodness of us, that what we are into and everything we are doing is good. We should continue with it and should be undeterred. We should remain in our element, in our essence, because wherever Obinabo, Ejogbe, wherever it appears, it means that what you are doing, your energy, everything you are doing, just continue with it.
Okay, very good. Now I just wanted to, something I omitted when I poured libations, I just want to remind you, when we pour libations, also we pour libations for ourselves, for each individual in the room, you know, and then when we pour libation, we ask them to call out all the negative things that they would like to be free of. You know, you pour, we say pain, poverty, whatever those things are negative that you don't want in your life, you call those and let the ancestors remove that from your space. Okay, and that brings us right back to where we started, and that is the creator. And that is the understanding that as African people, African traditional religion reminds us that we are connected. You know, a lot of the difficulties that we have as a people is that disconnection. Believe it or not, if you're disconnected from yourself, you're always roaming, trying to find who you are. You know, and people can easily tell you, you know, what you're not good enough. Just like this young man, he really feels that we're not good enough. What is modernity? We should stop African traditional stuff and go into whatever modernity is. Well, what do you mean by modernity? If I stop being African, does that make me modern? If I stop eating African food, does that make me modern? If I stop eating Kolanut, does that make me modern? What makes me modern as an African? If you accept that what other religions are doing is modern, what part of me should I get rid of? So I'll be modern. Yes, Dibia Chiedozie, you have something you want to say?
Oh,
I saw your hand.
well, not really. Not really. I was just scratching my chin. But if you want to say something, I will gladly do so.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me just read some of the comments we're getting. Thank you, Dr. Uwa Udee and Dr. Chiedozie for today's show. I love you people. Chineke gozi unu. Thank you. We love you too, and thank you for coming in and listening. It's very important that because when you hear, when you learn, share, play it forward, share it. And what we want is for you to do so with pride and dignity. Understand you are good enough. You are the original. You are the original human beings. You know, we brought life, we gave life to humanity. Humanity and civilization began in us. So why do we exclude spirituality? Why do we say all the civilization, all everything came from us, but spirituality is not part of it? So that's very important. Go and share what you learn. This person says, this is Nosferatus. This is such a great episode. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you feel that way. And no, you are right. This is a major disconnection. That's right. We're so disconnected. Let's see. Well, we've read what Obi Onyioha said. Your Highness said he say. Ukuna Charles, welcome. Well, actually, he was welcoming you. And of course, a lot of you say, and Yagazie, you know. So I want us to end this episode. I still want to keep it within. We've got let's see, we've got about 2-3 minutes so that we can replay this show. What parting words do you have? Udee, you've got 1 minute.
Yeah, I just wanted to say our spiritual culture is just like everybody else's spiritual culture. We're not doing anything different for what the rest of the world is doing. We have our own process. We abide by it. This is what controls our behavior. As Professor Chiedozie had stated, I think about a week ago, we didn't have jails in ancient times. It was our religion and spiritual habits and practices that kept us on the path of rectitude and doing the right things and living with one another in peace and in harmony. Modern is not always better. Just because the Europeans introduced the jail system doesn't mean that we're controlling negative behavior better. As a matter of fact, we're not. You end up in jail for something as minor as maybe a traffic ticket, or maybe you just stole a fruit. By the time you get out of jail, you're a different person. You have turned into a criminal because you're living amongst criminals. It's not everything that you do in life that deserves for you to be in jail. You could swear by the Bible in the court and still end up breaking the rules and lying on the stand. But I've never seen anybody who was asked to swear by his personal juju or the juju of the village, if you want to call it that, or whatever it is that you want to call it. People do not want to swear by any kind of traditional spiritual path because they are truly afraid of it. And if we could bring back some of these things that we used to do in ancient times to control human behavior, you will find that we will have less people in jail, and we may just end up living more wholesome existence.
Thank you. Thank you. Dibia Chiedozie.
Yeah, as an ontologist, I would say beyond getting down to our roots, we need to get back to our ground. Because without our grounds, there will be no roots in which our trees will inhere. It is when we gain back our ground, then our roots, our trees will be well rooted, will become well nourished in the fullness of Chukwu Kikabiyama and our ancestors. And then we can now reenact modernity in its true light.
Okay, thank you so very much. Thank you everyone for joining us. This has been an exciting show. We're going to even have a more exciting one next Sunday. So hopefully you will all join us. Ukuna Charles, thank you so much for joining us and all your beautiful commentary. Let's see who else. Your Highness Dim Chimobi, thank you for joining us. Emeka Onyioha, thank you. Nosferatu, thank you. Uwa Onyioha, thank you very much. We really truly enjoyed all of you. And then there are some other individuals. I always have difficulty with some of the names and I try not to butcher it, but I want to thank all of you for joining us, that you will join us again next week, because we are going to have an exciting show again next week. We will have Dibia Ochuaja again, of course, and then we'll have Dibia Chiedozie Okoro, who's going to join us. So I know you guys will be looking forward to this. I know I am. And so I want to thank you, Udee. And I'll thank you, Chiedozie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Love to both of you. I will see you same time next Sunday. And so it is. And we're really going to talk about some actions that we're going to take to start manifesting this vision into reality. And so it is. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best. Rest of the day. Okay.